When I say the bush of Alaska, I don't mean the Australian outback. I mean the Alaskan bush.
What really happened to the Alaskan bush people after the cameras stopped rolling? From battling life-threatening illnesses to secret family feuds, shocking transformations, and a mysterious show cancellation.
I don't see how anyone could look at my life before my wife and say that now.
This is the untold story you haven't seen on TV. The Brown family's off-grid journey didn't end with the series. It only got more intense. Even though the family's garden wasn't fully up and running, they still managed to gather some edible plants scattered around the island. That resourcefulness sums up a lot about the lifestyle they've lived, and the one they've shown the world for years through television. If you're someone who enjoys reality shows that double as documentaries, where cameras follow people living outside the norms of modern life, you've likely come across Alaskan Bush People. It's a series that has fascinated audiences since it first aired, showing the daily routines and hardships of a family determined to live off the grid. The show originally aired on the Discovery Channel, debuting on 6 May 2014. It introduced viewers to the Brown family, a group of 9 who chose to live in remote wilderness, far from the noise and comfort of city life. While the show has always sparked mixed opinions, there's no denying the appeal it had for people curious about alternative lifestyles. At its heart, Alaskan Bush People aim to portray what it was like to live in near-total isolation, relying almost entirely on nature and each other to survive. Over the years, it's shown scenes of the family crafting shelters from logs, catching fish for meals, hunting wild animals, and foraging for berries and mushrooms. It wasn't just a television show. It became a window into a unique, often romanticized way of life that many viewers found both inspiring and eye-opening. The family built their home, a single-room hut, by themselves, using whatever they could find in the forest. Their survival didn't just depend on skills and tools, but on cooperation and resilience. For instance, the men often took on the role of hunters and fishermen, supplying the family with meat and fish, while the matriarch, Amora Amy Brown, occasionally went into town, usually no more than twice a month, to pick up any supplies they couldn't find in the wild. That self-sufficient image became central to the show's identity. It reflected not only the family's values, but also a broader cultural fascination with returning to basics, especially in a world becoming more reliant on technology and instant conveniences. However, after a solid run spanning more than a decade, fans noticed that new episodes had stopped airing. Speculation started circulating online, with many wondering if the show had been canceled or if the family had chosen to leave the spotlight for good. Viewers who had followed the Browns since the early days were particularly invested. Questions about their well-being, lifestyle, and future began to surface. Although the show never claimed to be a documentary in the strictest sense, it blended real-life situations with production elements common in reality TV. The family's daily life was presented with a mix of candid scenes and orchestrated moments designed for storytelling. Over time, this balance led some critics to question how much of it was authentic and how much was scripted. Regardless of how real or staged particular moments might have been, Alaskan Bush People undeniably drew a loyal audience. The family's remote lifestyle, especially in the first few seasons filmed deep in the Alaskan bush, gave people a different perspective on what it means to live with less, focus on family, and embrace the unpredictability of nature. The show's success can partly be attributed to its timing. It launched at a point when survival shows, outdoor adventure content, and alternative living documentaries were gaining traction. People were beginning to question modern life's excesses, and the Brown family's way of living, though extreme to many, offered an interesting alternative. As episodes aired, viewers got to know each family member more intimately. But in the early seasons, it was mostly about the group dynamic, the parents and their children working together to build, gather, hunt, and solve problems as they came. There were plenty of challenges: equipment failures, wildlife encounters, harsh weather, and emotional strain. But those elements were part of what made it compelling. It wasn't about a perfectly sustainable lifestyle. It was about doing your best with what you had, especially when living in one of the harshest climates on Earth. Later, as the family matured and faced new challenges, including serious health issues and personal struggles, the tone of the show shifted. But that transition didn't come until well after the show had established itself as a staple of off-grid television. Still, one of the most intriguing aspects of Alaskan Bush people was the mystery that surrounded it. The Browns were portrayed as living almost entirely removed from the modern world, yet they were also TV personalities with a growing public presence. That contradiction fueled both fascination and skepticism. While some praised them for living simply and honestly, others pointed to inconsistencies in their story, questioning whether their lifestyle was as raw and untouched as it seemed. The show's location also moved over time. While it started in Alaska, as the name suggests, the family later relocated to Washington State. This move brought its own set of questions and changes, but at its core, the show continued to focus on how the family adapted to new surroundings while maintaining their off-grid principles. At the height of its popularity, Alaskan Bush People became more than just a series about survival. It was a family story. Audiences watched the children grow up, take on more responsibilities, and start to express their individual identities. The parents, Billy and Amy Brown, became household names for fans of the show. Their leadership, struggles, and philosophies shaped much of what the series represented. But as the years went on and updates became more sporadic, viewers began to wonder what was really happening behind the scenes. Was the family still committed to off-grid living? Had they become more involved in modern conveniences? And most importantly, were they all doing okay? By the time the show reached its later seasons, especially the 13th and 14th, it had become clear that things were shifting. There were fewer wilderness scenes and more personal storylines, focusing on health, relationships, and transitions. These changes weren't necessarily negative. They added depth and emotional weight, but they also indicated that the original concept was evolving. Despite its polarizing nature, the series maintained a steady fan base. People tuned in not just for the survival tips or the picturesque Alaskan backdrop, but because they had developed a connection with the Browns. The family's ups and downs, their arguments and celebrations, became part of a larger narrative that viewers had invested in over the years. Now, with no new episodes in recent memory and an uncertain future for the show, the question remains: what has become of the Brown family? How have they adapted to the many changes life has thrown at them since the cameras stopped rolling? What transformations have they undergone, both as individuals and as a family unit? Billy married Amora Branson Brown, better known as Amy, in 1979. Together, they would go on to have 7 children: Matt, Bam Bam, Bear, Gabe, Noah, Snowbird, and Rain. Over the years, their tight-knit family structure became the foundation of the show. Audiences were drawn to Billy's calm presence, his philosophical way of speaking, and the leadership role he naturally assumed within the family. From the earliest episodes of Alaskan Bush People, Billy was portrayed as a man of deep conviction. He encouraged his family to live in harmony with nature, to value independence, and to rely on one another. His ideals shaped every decision, from how they built their shelter to how they hunted for food. This unique worldview gave the show its tone and purpose. But like any real-life story, Billy's journey wasn't without hardship. As the seasons progressed, viewers began to notice changes in his health. By the time the family had moved to Washington State and were living at their North Star Ranch property, Billy's health was visibly deteriorating. He struggled with respiratory issues and had a history of seizures, which made continued filming increasingly difficult. Then, in February 2021, news broke that devastated the family and fans alike. Billy Brown passed away at the age of 68, following a seizure at the family's home in Washington. Despite attempts to save him, emergency responders were unable to revive him. The event sent shockwaves through the fan base and marked a major turning point in the narrative of the show. His son Bear Brown confirmed the sad news through social media, writing a heartfelt message that expressed just how much Billy had meant to the family. He called him a loving father, a guiding force, and someone who had truly lived life on his own terms. The post resonated with many who had grown to admire Billy's unshakable determination and connection to nature. It was later revealed that Billy had suffered a fatal heart attack. According to statements shared by the family, he had long battled health conditions involving both his heart and lungs. These underlying issues had gradually taken their toll, and despite the family's efforts to support him, his condition worsened over time. While his death was sudden, it was not entirely unexpected by those close to him. Billy's passing didn't just leave a personal void for his family. It also raised questions about the future of Alaskan bush people. He was the central figure, the storyteller, and the originator of the family's bush lifestyle. Without him, the show's dynamic changed significantly. It shifted from a series about wilderness survival to something more intimate, a reflection on loss, adaptation, and resilience. In the months that followed, the family made it clear that they intended to carry on Billy's legacy. Tributes to him were shared on social media, in interviews, and through the remaining episodes of the show. The tone grew more reflective, as surviving family members shared how his values continued to influence their daily decisions, even after his death. Alongside Billy's health challenges, the family also had to deal with a different kind of crisis a few years earlier, when Amy Brown was diagnosed with a serious illness. In 2017, it was publicly revealed that Amy had stage 3 lung cancer. The diagnosis was confirmed during the 8th season of the show and quickly became one of the most emotional story arcs in its history. Amy's battle with cancer was both a personal and public experience. On the show, she was seen undergoing medical tests, dealing with the physical and emotional toll of the disease, and navigating difficult treatment plans. She experienced symptoms like constant pain and trouble breathing, which ultimately led her to seek medical attention. Doctors gave her a grim prognosis, just a 3% chance of survival. Faced with this news, the Brown family made a major life decision. They left their remote homestead in Alaska and moved to Southern California so Amy could be closer to hospitals and specialists. This move marked a major shift in their lifestyle, one that went against the original premise of the show. However, it also highlighted the family's flexibility and willingness to prioritize health over ideology. The experience tested the family in new ways. For a group that had built its identity around toughness and self-reliance, dealing with a life-threatening illness required a different kind of strength. Fans of the show watched as the family banded together to support Amy through chemotherapy and other treatments. It wasn't just about chopping wood or catching fish anymore. It became about love, care, and human vulnerability. After a year of intense treatment, Amy was declared to be in remission. This news came as a huge relief to the family and their fans, many of whom had been following her progress closely. Despite the odds, she had managed to beat the disease, at least for the time being. Her recovery became a symbol of hope and determination for those dealing with similar battles. Even after her remission, Amy continued to receive regular medical checkups to ensure the cancer hadn't returned. Her journey wasn't over, but she began to reclaim parts of her old life. She returned to gardening, went on hikes, and reconnected with fans through social media. Her updates offered a glimpse into a woman who, despite having faced a major health crisis, continued to embrace life with energy and optimism. In early 2025, Bear Brown announced that Amy had been hospitalized again due to another health scare. Though the nature of the emergency was not fully disclosed, it understandably raised concerns. However, just weeks later, Amy was seen sharing photos of herself enjoying a hike, looking healthier and more energetic. Her resilience once again shone through. Throughout the ups and downs, Amy has remained a grounding presence in the family. She's been there through relocations, legal battles, personal fallouts, and the passing of her husband. Her ability to remain calm, nurturing, and optimistic has helped keep the family united, even when things haven't gone as planned. Billy and Amy's stories are deeply intertwined with the larger narrative of Alaskan bush people. Their choices, values, and challenges helped shape not only their children's lives, but also the entire show. As a couple, they symbolized commitment, endurance, and the belief that family comes before everything else. Now, with Billy gone and Amy continuing her recovery, the family finds itself in a period of transition. They've had to ask themselves difficult questions about what comes next, both personally and professionally. While the show may no longer be airing in its original format, the legacy of these two central figures lives on in their children, and in the impact they've had on millions of viewers. With the passing of Billy Brown and the health battles faced by Amy, the Brown siblings found themselves in a position they likely never expected, navigating adulthood and personal growth largely outside the direct guidance of their parents. Each sibling has taken a different path, and their journeys reflect a wide range of experiences, from personal recovery and creative pursuits to relationship highs and lows. While some have maintained a relatively public profile, others have chosen quieter, more private lives. Still, they all remain connected to the unique upbringing that shaped them. The oldest of the Brown children, Matt Brown, was born on September 7, 1982. Viewers were introduced to Matt when he was already in his 30s, during the first season of Alaskan Bush People. Early on, Matt stood out for his creativity and eccentricity, often trying out wild experiments or taking on unusual tasks. However, as the show progressed, it became clear that Matt was dealing with personal struggles away from the cameras. In 2016, Matt entered rehab for alcohol addiction. It was a significant moment, both for him personally and for fans who had grown to care about him. A year later, he suffered an accident involving an improvised explosive device he had made, a mason jar filled with gunpowder and a fuse, which he had placed in a refrigerator. The explosion caused serious injuries, but he survived and eventually recovered. These incidents marked a turning point in his life. Matt eventually distanced himself from the show altogether. He moved to California and focused on healing, both physically and emotionally. In 2019, he launched his own YouTube channel, where he now shares videos about his everyday life, his journey through recovery, and his reflections on the past. The channel has gathered thousands of subscribers and provides a more candid, unfiltered look at Matt's world. While he no longer appears on the show, his presence online offers insight into his growth and ongoing efforts to maintain a sober, peaceful life. Next is Joshua Brown, better known by fans as Bam Bam. Born on September 18, 1984, he was 28 years old when the series began. Often perceived as one of the more serious and private members of the family, Bam Bam spent a large part of his youth learning to navigate the Alaskan waters, having grown up on the family's fishing boat. Though he kept most of his personal life out of the spotlight, Bam Bam surprised fans when he revealed he was in a relationship with Allison Kagan, a field producer for the show. Their romance reportedly began while working together on set. Unlike some of his siblings, Bam Bam hasn't flooded social media with updates, but he occasionally shares glimpses of his life. He and Allison undertook a major project renovating a vintage ferry boat, which they hope to live on together. This initiative hinted at a more grounded and long-term vision for their relationship. Bam Bam continues to keep a low profile, and there's been little official word on whether he will return to television. Still, he maintains a loyal fan base, many of whom respect his decision to lead a quieter life. Bear Brown, whose full name is Solomon Isaiah Freedom Brown, brings a completely different energy to the table. Born on July 10, 1987, Bear is known for his wild personality and fearless nature. Often seen climbing trees or sprinting through the forest, he has always been cast as the family's primary hunter and wilderness expert. But over the years, Bear's life has taken several dramatic turns. In March 2020, Bear became a father. His then-girlfriend, Raven Adams, gave birth to their son, River Anthony. The arrival of River marked a significant shift in Bear's priorities. Fatherhood introduced new responsibilities and challenges, especially since Bear and Raven's relationship has been rocky. They've had a series of breakups and reconciliations, and the situation has not been without controversy. In 2025, Bear made headlines after Raven reportedly filed a restraining order against him, citing allegations of substance abuse and threats. These claims added a layer of tension to Bear's public image and raised concerns among fans. Bear later addressed some of the issues on social media, offering apologies where appropriate, including one for an April Fool's prank where he pretended to have cut off part of his finger. Despite all the personal drama, Bear has continued to share his love for the outdoors and remains active on social media. He's also teased the idea of a spin-off project, potentially titled Alaskan Bush People, behind the scenes, and has talked about raising funds to return to Alaska for a new series called The Next Generation of Alaskan Bush People. Gabe Brown, born December 15, 1989, is one of the quieter brothers, but has undergone a significant transformation in recent years. He joined the show in his early 20s and was known for his playful attitude and artistic nature. Over time, Gabe grew into his own as a husband and father. He married Raquel Rose Pantilla in January 2019, and the couple now has 2 children together. Their first child, a daughter named Sophia, was born in December 2019. In 2021, Raquel revealed that they had secretly welcomed a second baby, though the couple has kept further details about their younger child private. Gabe's focus has clearly shifted to family life, and he often talks about how much his children have changed his perspective. Although he still appears in some episodes, his storyline now focuses more on his domestic responsibilities and less on wilderness survival. Gabe has also pursued his interest in carpentry, reportedly taking on building projects within his local community. His ability to balance public and private life seems to have served him well. Noah Brown, the youngest of the Brown brothers, was born on July 18, 1992. He joined the show at the age of 20 and quickly became known for his inventive streak and technical skills. Noah took a more traditional route when he married Rain Alicia in 2018. The couple welcomed their first son, Elijah, in early 2019, followed by their second child, Adam, in October 2021. For a while, Noah and Rain appeared to be one of the more stable couples in the Brown family. They often posted family updates on social media, and fans got a glimpse into their relatively normal home life. But in early 2025, the couple announced their separation. In a TikTok video, they explained that they had decided to take a break and were no longer together. The announcement was handled maturely, with both expressing a desire to move forward amicably, particularly for the sake of their children. The breakup came after reports in 2024 that Noah and Rain had filed for a protection order against his sister, Rain Brown, citing harassment. Though the request was denied, the incident suggested deeper tensions within the family that fans hadn't seen before. Snowbird Brown, whose full name is Amora Jean Snowbird Brown, was born on November 18, 1994. The first daughter of Billy and Amy, Snowbird was already 18 when the show began, but kept a relatively low profile during its early seasons. Over time, she developed a strong connection with viewers who admired her quiet strength and loyalty to the family. In 2022, Snowbird experienced a serious health scare when she began suffering from intense abdominal pain. Tests revealed she had large cystic tumors in her abdomen, which required surgery. The operation went ahead successfully, but it wasn't filmed due to pandemic restrictions. Although doctors didn't confirm cancer, they warned that the likelihood of the tumors returning or being cancerous in the future remained high. Since then, Snowbird has continued to monitor her health with regular checkups. She also launched an Etsy shop, Snowbird Crafts, where she sells handmade items like jewelry and candle holders. It's a small but meaningful venture that shows her creative side. Finally, the youngest sibling, Rain Brown, has grown up quite a bit since the early seasons. Born on November 23, 2002, Rain was just 10 when the show first aired. Over the years, she's become more confident and outspoken, especially on social media. In 2024, she confirmed her marriage to Josiah Lorden, a man she met while working as a waitress. The two quickly bonded and fell in love. Rain changed her name to Rain Lorden online, confirming the marriage. She often shares updates with her more than 400,000 Instagram followers, opening up about her personal life and experiences growing up in the spotlight. Despite facing criticism at times, Rain has maintained a strong presence and continues to shape her own identity outside of the show. After Amy Brown's cancer diagnosis and treatment, the family made the difficult decision to leave Alaska permanently. Their move to Washington state marked a significant turning point. No longer isolated in the Alaskan bush, they settled on a 435-acre property called North Star Ranch. The new location offered better access to health care and other essential services, while still allowing them to live close to nature. The shift wasn't just about convenience. It was a response to a series of circumstances beyond their control: health scares, logistical issues, and the growing demands of filming a television series. While some fans felt the family was no longer living off the land in the way they once were, the move showed their willingness to adapt while staying true to the core of who they are. At North Star Ranch, the family built a new life, albeit one that incorporated more modern amenities. Some family members moved into separate households, branching out from the original homestead. Others explored opportunities outside the show, starting businesses or pursuing creative projects. Despite living apart in some cases, the family has remained connected through shared experiences, frequent visits, and public appearances. In terms of income, the Browns diversified as their fame grew. The television show was undoubtedly their main source of earnings for many years. It's been reported that Billy Brown earned up to $500,000 per season, while his children each earned between $40,000 and $60,000. But as the show's future became less certain, the family members began exploring other ways to earn a living. Matt Brown, for example, leaned into his creativity, selling artwork inspired by nature and his time in the wilderness. Noah used his mechanical and engineering skills to design custom-made tools and household items. Bam Bam pursued a passion for boats, earning his captain's license and working on various marine-related projects. Bear turned his love for adventure and extreme activities into online content, building a modest following that supports his ventures. Gabe focused on carpentry and construction, contributing to local projects in their area. The family also explored branded merchandise, including clothing and household items that featured popular quotes and artwork related to the show. Some of the siblings even dabbled in writing, creating books and blog content that shared their insights into bush life and the lessons they've learned along the way. These efforts not only helped sustain their income, but also gave fans new ways to stay connected. Public speaking became another avenue for the Browns. As their story became more well-known, they were invited to talk about sustainable living, mental health, and overcoming adversity. These appearances helped reshape the public's understanding of who they were beyond the television show, highlighting the complexities of their personal experiences rather than the curated version seen on screen. However, behind the scenes, not everything was smooth. Legal issues and allegations began to surface, raising questions about the future of the show. One of the most significant developments came after Billy Brown's death, when his former business partner, Robert Maughan, filed a lawsuit against the estate. The lawsuit, which demanded over $500,000, alleged that Billy had breached a contract they made back in 2009. According to court documents, Billy had agreed to pay Robert 10% of the gross income from projects that included books, films, and the TV show. Maughan claimed he never received any of the agreed-upon payments. The legal case added another layer of complexity to the already uncertain status of Alaskan bush people. Testimony given during the lawsuit, including statements from Amy Brown, seemed to confirm what many had suspected. The show was no longer in production. During her testimony, Amy repeatedly referred to the show in the past tense, indicating that filming had stopped and no new seasons were being planned. While Discovery Channel never released an official statement confirming the show's cancellation, Alaskan Bush People has not aired any new episodes since 2022. The show is no longer listed on Discovery's active programming page, and there have been no public announcements about future seasons. All signs point to an unofficial but very real end. Still, the story might not be over entirely. In 2024, Bear Brown hinted at the possibility of a spin-off project. He spoke about launching a new series, tentatively titled The Next Generation of Alaskan Bush People, which would document his efforts to return to Alaska with his son. He also teased a YouTube series called Behind the Scenes with Bear Brown, intended to offer fans a closer look at life after the main show. While these ideas are still in the early stages, they suggest a continuing desire to keep the spirit of the show alive in some form. In recent years, there have also been controversies and rumors that have tested the family's image. Critics of the show have long argued that the Browns weren't as isolated or self-sufficient as the series portrayed. Some locals from Alaska claimed the family stayed in hotels or nearby towns when not filming. At one point, legal documents revealed that several members of the family had been charged with theft and falsification for misrepresenting their residency status to receive government benefits. Billy Brown responded to these accusations before his death, dismissing the critics as people who didn't understand their choices or way of life. He referred to online detractors as Bobs in the basement, a term the family used for anonymous internet critics. He insisted that the family's move away from Alaska was a necessary decision driven by Amy's health, not a betrayal of their values. The family's openness about these changes has helped them retain support from many fans, even if the picture isn't as simple as it once seemed. By being honest about their struggles and explaining the reasons behind their decisions, the Browns have maintained a level of relatability that many reality stars lose over time. There have also been interpersonal issues within the family. In 2024, Noah and Rain Brown filed a protection order against Rain Brown, alleging harassment. Although the order was denied, the incident pointed to growing tensions within the group. The following year, Noah and Rain announced their separation after 6 years of marriage. The family has not spoken much about the internal conflict, and for now, these incidents remain isolated events that haven't significantly altered the public's perception of the larger family dynamic. Despite the controversies and setbacks, the Browns continue to represent something unique in modern entertainment. Their story, while far from perfect, has always centered around resilience, unity, and a desire to live life on their own terms. They have dealt with health emergencies, legal battles, personal loss, and public scrutiny, yet they've remained committed to adapting and moving forward. Whether or not the show ever returns, the legacy of Alaskan Bush People is firmly established. It offered viewers a different lens through which to view family, survival, and simplicity. It reminded audiences that there's value in learning to work with your hands, live close to nature, and support one another through life's most difficult moments. As of now, the future remains uncertain. Some members of the family seem content to step away from public life, while others are still exploring ways to stay connected with fans. Either way, the world of the Brown family has changed dramatically from where it began. What started as a remote wilderness experiment has grown into a deeply personal, ongoing story about identity, change, and the enduring power of family. Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you believe the show should return? Or is it better to leave it as it is, a lasting memory of a family that chose to live differently?